And here we go. I need to play the trumpet, wailed Babs as she walked to school on the first day of being a fourth grader, her little brother Clark trailing along behind her. I have been thinking about it all summer, especially when Dad plays his jazz CDs. I think there are only 4 trumpets for the fourth graders, and maybe everyone else wants to play them, and I won't get to. Clark was not listening. He was worried about a problem of his own. Their grandma had given Clark a shiny red scooter, which he loved and had begged for. Now it was lost. He had looked forward to riding it to school so he could show off to all the other second graders. Unfortunately, the scooter disappeared just a few days ago. I think someone took it out of our backyard because I forgot to put it away in the garage, thought Clark. He hadn't told his parents and Grandma yet and was afraid when he did he would get in trouble. When they got to school, Babs and Clark separated and found their classrooms. Babs took an empty desk in the front row. The regular teacher and the school music teacher stood together in the front of the room. All the fourth graders were excited and noisy. Attention everyone, my name is Ms. Williams, and this is your music teacher, Mr. Brooks. He will explain how you get to choose your musical instruments. Mr. Brooks cleared his throat. It looks like it will be a perfect year. There are exactly 30 students and 30 available instruments, so nobody will be left out. I have pieces of paper numbered from 1 to 30 in here, he said, shaking a paper bag over his head. The bag will be passed around the room and everyone will draw a number. That will be the order that you will select your instruments. I just have to get a low number, hoped Babs. The bag was passed to her. She put her hand in and felt the many pieces of paper, grabbed one, pulled it out. Oh no, moaned Babs. I drew number 30. She thought her chances to get a trumpet were over. After all the students had their numbers, the picking of the instruments began. There were flutes, cellos, violins, trumpets, saxophones, a bass, a bassoon, some really big drums called timpani, clarinets, an oboe, a French horn, and 2 violas. The student with number 1 got ready to pick. Hang on. Page turning thing. Of course she will pick a trumpet, thought Babs, and sure enough, she did. The next student picked a cello, then another trumpet was taken, then the oboe, a violin, the third trumpet, a clarinet, another clarinet, another violin, the bass, the bassoon, the timpani, and so on until there were only 2 instruments remaining, a violin and the last trumpet. I just have to say for 1 second, that little disturbance was Wiley the dog, kind of trying to make it in here, but he changed his mind and he's backed up and he's over there now. Thought Babs, I just might get the trumpet after all, if only number 29 will pick the violin. She held her breath. I will take that horn, said the student ahead of Babs. Babs was crestfallen and a lump rose in her throat. A violin? How unlucky can I be, she thought. Mr. Brooks looked down at Babs. Well now, it looks like you will be playing the fiddle, he said. Sir, isn't that a violin? Asked Babs. Yes, explained Mr. Brooks. Fiddle is an old English word for violin. Lots of professional violinists affectionately call their priceless violins fiddles. Well, I never thought I'd be stuck with a fiddle, but if I want to be in the orchestra, I'm going to have to make the best of this, thought Babs. The next day, she started in a class for stringed instruments. There were violins, violas, cellos, and 1 bass. The class met once a week. The teacher told the class to practice their instruments for 15 minutes every day. Babs decided to do her practicing right before dinner time. Each day she got a little bit better, and soon she could play all of her lessons without looking at the music. One day, as she was playing her fiddle before dinner, she could smell the wonderful aroma of lasagna. Her mind began to wander as she practiced more. I remember the last time we had lasagna when company came, she thought. Mother made a really good dessert called creme brulee. She remembered that was the French name for baked custard. I hope we have that instead of achy jello. After dinner, Bab's mother said, I have a surprise. I suddenly decided to make creme brulee for dessert tonight, and she brought the special dessert to the table. Babs couldn't believe her good luck. She had just wished for that. The next day, as she was practicing, Bab's mind wandered again. She was thinking about her little brother Clark and his missing scooter. I wish that Clark could find his scooter, wished Babs. At dinner that night, Clark came running to the table out of breath. You won't believe this, he gasped. I looked in the garage 100 times for my scooter and I couldn't find it. But just now I looked again and it was sitting right on top of everything. It must be magic. Babs started to wonder if maybe she had something to do with it. Twice in a row she had wished for things while practicing her fiddle, and both wishes had come true. She decided to do an experiment. She and her brother had been asking their parents if they could get a dog. We will let you have a dog when you're a little older, their parents had been telling them. It's a big responsibility taking care of a pet. Babs began practicing. She wished hard for her parents to let them have a dog. That night at dinner, her father had an announcement to make. Your mother and I have decided that you both have shown good responsibility lately. Babs with your diligent practicing and Clark with you finding your lost belongings. We have decided to let you get a dog. That weekend, the whole family went to the Humane Society where the Dogs Without Homes lived. They picked out a puppy and named him Lucky. I think this little fiddle must have some kind of magic power, Babs told her brother. As the weeks went by, Babs practiced and practiced. She wished for other things to happen, but none of her wishes seemed to be granted. She wished for it to stop raining, but it rained and it rained. She wished for a new yellow raincoat, but one did not appear. Something was happening, however. Because she was practicing so seriously, she was getting to be quite good at playing the fiddle. The school orchestra had started to rehearse, and Babs was the best fiddle player in the class. I guess I really like playing the fiddle, Babs told Mr. Brooks. I'm not sorry anymore that I didn't get the trumpet. Good, answered Mr. Brooks, because you are now going to be the first chair violinist. You have a special title, just as if you were in the symphony. You are the concertmaster. Soon it was springtime. The weather was warming up, and in a few weeks the school year would be over. Babs would have to give her little fiddle back to the school on the last day. This made her very sad. One night, Babs went to bed with her window open because it was a warm night. As she drifted off to sleep and began to dream, her curtains fluttered, and a beautiful fairy with wings flew through the open window. I am a fiddle fairy, and you are playing my fiddle, said the creature. Babs could not believe her eyes and ears. I always grant 3 magic wishes to every boy or girl who plays my fiddle, just to make sure they practice. But the real magic is the joy you bring to others from your playing. Have you ever noticed the happy look on your grandma's face as she sits in her rocking chair listening to you play? Asked the fairy. Soon you will give the fiddle back to your school for the summer, but do not be sad. You are outgrowing that small fiddle anyway. You are meant to play many different fiddles for a long, long time. Before Babs could say a word, the fiddle fairy disappeared back out the open window. When Babs woke up the next morning, she remembered the dream and wondered if it had really happened. The last day of school came. Babs knew that she had to give the fiddle back. That was the rule. As Babs was leaving for school that morning with the little fiddle in its battered black case, her mother hugged her and said, Cheer up, honey. Most kids can't wait for the last day of school. Everything will be okay. You'll see. Babs walked home after school slowly that day, thinking about the long summer ahead without a fiddle. When she got home, her mother met her at the door with a big smile on her face. There's a surprise for you on the kitchen table, she said. Babs expected a special snack, but what she saw instead made her gasp. There on the table sat a brand new shiny black fiddle case with a brand new shiny fiddle. We bought you a new fiddle the next size up for your very own, said her mother, and we are getting you a fiddle teacher so you can take private lessons all summer long. Babs was very, very happy. The fiddle fairy was right. She would be playing lots of fiddles for a long, long time. She smiled at her mother. I'm going to my room now to practice. The end.